let's get familiar with the buttons and functions on this machine. So whenever you start off, and turn on the machine, it will come up with stitch number 1. As you push these buttons, stitch 2, 3, they'll show up on the screen. These are kind of like your default or normal stitches, the ones you always need to get to. And then when you want additional utility stitches or decorative stitches, that will be up in this area. So if you want a stitch that is numbered, say 16, touch the keypad fairly quickly. 1, 6. See, I didn't do it fast enough, so 1, 6. Then I get 16. Now that's the stitch that it's going to sew. So if you notice that if you touch it too slow, you'll get whatever number you touched last. Another thing that you have is a question mark right here, and it will guide you to what foot you should have on for this stitch. So if I touch the question mark, it tells me I should have foot A on, that's the standard foot, for a straight stitch. If I'm on a buttonhole, I'm going to touch the question mark and it will recommend foot C. There's also foot B. It's a lowercase b. I had to look twice. Why are they showing me number 6? That's a B. There's a B foot in here as well. So that's a nice little helpful part. As you pick, let's pick a zigzag, it's stitch number 5. You can take a look for making the stitch length or width wider or narrower. So for width, it's the plus minus next to the zigzag. So we can go all the way up to 7 millimeters wide. And you'll notice that it actually lights up this little indicator. That means that we are not on normal. So if we come back, if I'm looking for normal, just wait until this light goes off. And then that was the normal setting. The other way to go back to a normal setting is just pick another stitch and come back to it. That will also clear it out. The first plus and minus here is length of stitch. So if we want to go ahead and make that longer, and you can, it's amazing how many stitches you can get to look totally different just by changing the length and the width. You do have the ability to mirror image stitches, so stitches that are symmetrical up here and you want them to flip over. That would be the mirror image function. If the light is on, it's flipped. If the light is off, it is not flipped. So we'll just go back to a straight stitch for right now. You'll notice everything clears out because I picked the stitch. Over here we have our needle up and down. So if I push it, you'll notice the needle will instantly change positions by a half a stitch. So right now when I go to sew, every time I sew, the needle will stop down in the fabric. If I want it to come up, I can just push that button. Now the light is at the top, which means every time I go to sew, the needle will stop up. So you can choose which one works for you. The stop button is great for the decorative stitches up here, so it sews to the end of the decorative stitch and then stops. So you don't get stuck only having half of a heart or half of a flower. The machine will finish that up for you. Fix. Fix is a locking stitch. So at any given time, if you want to do some locking stitches in the same kind of vicinity, it will do that. Just touch the button when you want it. You have a speed plus and minus, so we can really slow down the machine here to a much smaller or slower speed, or go ahead and plus it back up to its maximum speed. You have a start-stop button. As you push it, you'll notice the machine will immediately start stitching without you sewing on using the foot control. That's kind of nice to have sometimes. And then your reverse button is at your fingertips, which I love because usually my hands are here, and that's right at the tip of my thumb or index finger, whichever one you like to use there. All right, it also has a light, so if it's lit, that does mean it's going to go backwards without you having to hold it, touch it to release it, and it'll come forward again. So those are the basic functions in this area. We do have a tension. Just leave it at 4 if you're using good quality thread and you have the same thread in your needle as you do in the bobbin. And then I am going to show you one more thing on the side of this machine over here. You do have an option to change the pressure to be more or less depending on the fabric you're using. So if you're doing something really stretchy, I usually like to turn it to like 1. It's like normal if it's in the middle, or 1 or 2 for something so it doesn't come out wavy. And if it's something really thick and you need a little extra pressure, you can go up to 4 or 5. So that's a nice little feature that you have, but it just a manual change on the side of the machine. So let's go ahead and get into using some of these stitches and changing some of the lengths and widths while we're sewing.